Hello and welcome to the final part 8 of Unpacking the World of Hedge Funds. We will be tying things all together as we go through the ultimate investor journey in an interview with Equity Portfolio Manager Sefa Stube and Portfolio Specialist Vessel Robler. We will be wrapping up with 6 questions, hearing from industry specialists. Let's begin.
Why did Fairtree decide to launch solutions that blend traditional asset classes and hedge funds together?
By combining these two elements, we create something that is very unique in the market.
So the prudent way of constructing efficient portfolios for clients is to make sure that the portfolio is well diversified so that the client benefits from the returns of that portfolio.
So by the combination of these things, we create strategies that can then look to be very differently diversified to what we would see mostly in the market. So because of the levers and the instruments and the capacity and capability of hedge fund managers, it really brings something unique and dynamic to the table. And so in essence, we want to create something where clients would experience a whole different journey over the long term of their investment.
Hedge funds provide a return profile, a return type that is very different from traditional way of managing money. For example, because hedge fund managers can use tools like shorting, that means they can make money even when the market is going down. That brings in something that is different, a return that is different from our usual traditional way of managing. So we decided to launch these products that mix traditional asset classes and hedge funds because we realized the importance of diversification that the hedge funds bring within our portfolios.
Fairtree has many investment solutions. However, in the case study in part 7, we spoke about the Fairtree worldwide multi-strategy, flexible, RIV and QIF. Can you tell us more about these in summary?
For any long-term investor, you need to have a balanced portfolio, and that balanced portfolio has to have best ideas inside it. So we have designed these two portfolios specifically looking at long-term investment, and we always want to manage the journey of the client in a proper way so that the client experiences that journey in such a way that they don't have to have these roller coaster moments when markets dip and when markets are up.
When you look at the journey of a client over a long period of time, we want to make sure that you are managed in such a way where we create an environment, an investment vehicle that actually also helps with the emotional side of investing. I think that is the portion that a lot of people don't really speak to. The average investor is most probably invested for 2.5 years in their products. If you think of a short-term investment like an income fund even, or a medium equity fund that has only got like 40% equity, that's seen as a riskier asset to invest in, that time horizon is anything between 3 and 5 years. So the biggest influence in clients' money and creating wealth is actually the time that people stay invested into these different products or solutions that they go into. And so what we try and create with these combinations and the way that we look at it is that combining these assets, we create something that hopefully is uncorrelated. And when things happen that we experience in the markets, these securities and these different strategies, the hedge funds in combination, bring something of a different journey. So there's a different experience if you are invested into these products.
So the funds are diversified through different asset classes. You can have equities. We've got equities in there. We've got bonds. We've got credit. And then we've got other different hedge fund strategies like your long-short strategies, your market neutral strategies, your commodities that are inside the funds. The diversified blend of investment strategies enables us to generate different kinds of returns in different environments. Again, when you look at the blend is blended different investment strategies and then blended with worldwide different assets, and then the blend of hedge fund industries that are there So you have a combination of all these different ideas in just one product. And the good thing about these products is that a client can now invest in just one product and be able to get all these different strategies in one product, which is something that was difficult long back, but it's something that we provide to our clients.
So the idea is to create a safer environment from an emotional experience over the long term and still be able to outperform inflation, create wealth for clients over the long term.
What is the difference between the Fairtree Worldwide Multi-Strategy Flexible RIF and QUIF?
So when hedge funds started to get regulated, it was decided that there would be a distinction between the QUIF and the RIFs. For a portfolio manager, the RIF and the QUIF are the same. The only difference is that within the regulated RIF, there has to be certain exposure limits that you cannot go above, or that there are limits in the risks that are taken. So the way that they will trade the portfolio is almost the same whether it's a RIF or a QUIF. The other difference will come where certain assets within the regulations are not allowed.
Mainly comes down to what you are allowed to do inside of these two vehicles. And so the biggest difference is that in the leverage components, if you give me 100 Rand, that means in the QUIF environment, you can actually then invest that 100 Rand 3 times. So you would get a market exposure worth 3 times your money, where in the RIF environment, you can only do it 2 times, and that is capped. So on the QUIF side, it actually can go up to as high as 5 times, but we don't necessarily invest in some of those. So that's kind of the main difference between in terms of just what you're allowed to do with inside of these products.
So the regulator had to define different entry levels for these two different funds. The QUIF is aimed at experienced investors or institutional investors, for someone who has got assets of $1 million or above, or any investment advisor to the clients that has a good understanding or a good experience within the hedge funds. Then they are allowed to invest in the QUIF. The RIFs, typically, because they are less risky, they are available to any investor, which is why the word retail, meaning that anyone in the public or a retail investor is able to invest in this kind of a fund. For example, in our funds, the minimum is 50,000 Rand, or you can make 2,000 monthly contributions for you to be able to invest in the fund.
Then I think the uniqueness is that we have bands that we do test and run historically, that we operate in terms of allocation wise. So on our long only space, we run between 60 and 70%, and currently it's at 60% due to market circumstances, and so that can move up to 70%, but that's both relevant to the RIF and the QUIF, which is unique in the environment that we function and that we look at investments. And then also differently put, the pricing happens on a daily basis on the RIF, which means you can invest on every day of the month. You can make an investment into the RIF, or in every day of the month you can withdraw your money. And then on the QUIF side, there is actually only a monthly priced instrument, which means if you want to invest your money, you need to go in make sure that your money is in before the first of the month or the first working day, and then that pricing will happen backdated, and you'll receive that price for that month. Same at the end of the month, you only get an updated price.
The RIF and QUIF contain various investment strategies with many levers to pull. What are some of these strategies, and how do they add value to the investor's portfolio?
The different strategies are made up high level of long-only investments and hedge fund investments.
Hedge fund managers use an array of tools to generate their income, and as most of these tools are not available or they are not allowed within the traditional way of managing money. So, for example, hedge fund managers use what we call shorting. So they will go and short a company, and what that means is that if the share of that company falls, the hedge fund manager is able to make money. This is where we derive our long-short strategy. What that strategy means is that within the hedge fund manager book, there are long exposures and there is also short exposures. But the beauty about that is that that can be applied not only in one asset class. For example, you have a long-short equity fund which invests in equities. And in the same way, you have a long-short fixed income fund which can invest in bonds and in credit. And you can have the same thing in commodities. So that type of strategy can be extended into all these different asset classes. And then from that, you realize that the type of return or the payoff profile of that return in each strategy is very different from your traditional way of managing money. This is why hedge funds are so important within building the constructing of portfolios that we make, because those strategies now, what they bring is something that's totally different. And as managers of multi-asset classes, we are looking for things to diversify our portfolios. On top of that, hedge funds also apply what we call gearing. So within those long and short strategies, managers can apply gearing, and that enhances the return. And all these tools that I've spoken about, the managers in the traditional asset classes are not able to use those tools. So they are limited in the way they will manage the money.
And so underlyingly, we're looking at long-short equities, we're looking at soft commodities, we're looking at income instruments, we are looking at credit instruments, we're looking at bond markets, we're looking at equities, so normal equities that you would find on a JSE. We're even looking at global equities, we are looking at global credit. We are going abroad in terms of our way of doing it, not just limited to what you would find in South Africa. We're going developed markets, we're going emerging markets, and then we also employ some tactical tilting through different managers that we have found is actually has the capability to do that really well. Tactical tilting, meaning that you are going in and out of asset classes at different stages of the market cycles, and so in essence this encapsulates something of a really well diversified portfolio. I think what would be noted as well is that it would be very difficult to create something similar on an individual building block basis because it will be very expensive. So our capability of putting all of these investment vehicles together in one product actually allows us to then give something to our end clients that is a lot cheaper than they would find in the market.
The names of other asset managers are also in the mix. Why do they feature?
So when you look at these portfolios currently, you'll find these names that are different to the Fairtree still at the moment. What I would say is if you possibly watch this in a few years' time, it could be that you're actually not seeing any of those names anymore. So the reason why we employ some of these asset managers currently, and there have been different ones at different stages, is because we found them to have a skill set that is different to what we have currently in Fairtree.
An optimum portfolio has to be well diversified. And I've also spoken about you can diversify through using different types of asset classes and also strategies. We at Fairtree have realized that in as much as we are a big asset management house, there are certain people outside Fairtree that are doing something that is very different.
And so we want to make sure that we provide the end client, the man on the street, the guy that is willing to give us their money to look after, a well-diversified portfolio, not just from a perspective of asset classes, but also of idea generation, of skill sets. But also said, in future, you might find that that isn't the case anymore. And Fairtree in general, and our team in capability and capacity has actually grown into incorporating some of those skill sets. And in terms of the just globalization of what Fairtree is going through at the moment, some of these things might actually be under one roof. And it doesn't mean that we don't employ it anymore, we just actually have it in-house.
So in trying to make sure that we align our objectives and our goals for the portfolios that we have for the clients, not only for our own goals and objectives, but also aligning that to our clients, we make sure that we go out there and look for strategies that are very different, that will bring something that is different in what we are doing. And some of these names that we have within the portfolios, are proven names that have been around for a very long time, and they're doing something that is very different in what we do at Fairtree. And we believe that by adding them, we will achieve the objectives and goals for the clients that we are serving.
These two solutions, the RIV and the QUIV, are described as the ultimate solutions for the long-term investor. What exactly does that mean for someone looking for a suitable investment solution?
So my first thought is that I get shivers when the word ultimate is used. I don't really like that much because I don't really believe that there is an ultimate product or an ultimate solution. I think we really try hard at making a case for a well-diversified portfolio for our investors and our clients, looking at different skill sets and different asset classes. So in terms of ultimate, I would say is that we actually create something that manages the journey of the client a lot better.
The two solutions are the best ideas for us in a balanced fund for any long-term investor who wants to invest their money and be comfortable in what they are invested in. So these two solutions blend different investment strategies together, and they also blend worldwide asset classes in there, and there's also a blend of alternative asset classes that are in there. So what we have created here is a suite with all the different strategies that you can possibly find out there and made it into one, so that the investor is able to just invest in one fund without going around and wasting time to look for all these different funds that we already have. So we believe that what we've got is a product that an investor can just come in and just put their money without worrying about anything.
We try and be a person that would make you experience the realities of financial security, the ups and downs of the markets, the idea of creating wealth for either yourself or future generations, to such an extent that you would experience less emotion at different stages of the markets. And we've seen some extreme and severe examples, especially I'm young in the industry, but I think I've experienced things that a lot of people in many years have not experienced. You can think of 2008 financial crisis, which many people might have experienced, but maybe some of the younger investors have not experienced from a personal perspective. But in the meantime, in the last few months, even 18 odd months, we've experienced COVID, we've experienced a war, and these things have a great impact on your investment and your hard work to earn money that you want to invest and you want to see doing well and growing. And so the ultimate is more a journey perspective than it is a product perspective as such, a perfect solution or a perfect asset class or winning every time, all the time. That's not the case. We want to work hard at making sure that you want to stay invested in the market, because the one thing we've learned is that when you're out, you lose. When you're in and you can stomach the ups and downs, you do a lot better than most people. So for me, that would be the ultimate thing, is to try and work at creating wealth for our clients over a long period of time, managing emotion, managing the real realities of life. And life happens, and so we understand that, and it means that you have great intention of being invested in a certain product, but then life happens and certain things make you need money at certain different stages of life, whether it be to help out family, whether it be to sustain yourself. And so we want to make sure that we're responsible, that when that happens, you don't need to withdraw when markets are down 30 or 40%, but you might be down, but less so. Or you might have a different lever to pull in terms of the assets that you need to raise. And hopefully through that, we can still create wealth. We can create something that is a pleasant experience, and hopefully we can add value and to a great extent for most of our clients.
This brings us to the end of the Fairtree Unpacking the World of Hedge Funds series. Thank you that you have joined us. We trust that you found it insightful and that it has broadened your mind and opened your eyes to the incredible opportunities and benefits of investing in hedge funds. Take note to keep an eye on Fairtree Navigate and our social media channels going forward, as we will be releasing rich content on investing and other related financial planning topics. Remember, with us, it is all about the journey, and we look forward to guiding you every step of the way.